It's 4 o'clock on Tuesday. You know what that means, don't ya? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour. Woohoo! Yeah, baby, here we go. And thank you, fake audience. Thank you so much, fake band. And let's see who's in that chat room. There they are. Let's see. We've got Darren Moss, Ian Shortle, Bob Gunnerfelt, Martin Gravel, and Bob Gunnerfelt again. The gang is all here. Any second, I'm expecting that the guys working on our house are going to knock on the door and say, "We're leaving the premises now." Hello, guys. Hello, Nancy. Hello, ladies. Good to see you all. Gonna wait for the chat room to fill up a little bit. Hello, Jesse J. Peck. Wind chimes. Song from a headband. Edmund Red. Hello. Andre Stepanian. Terrell Burt. Hola. Kual Jose, I've got to work on that pronunciation. Riffs That Rule, Jan Weilage, Pete Mason, Steve Frisch, Greg Carosa, Robert Martin, John Hemingway. Hello, everybody. So, as I just mentioned before, a few of you logged on. We've still got guys working on. Well, they've torn down the termite-infested pergola. And now they're working on the eaves around the house. There was some termite damage there, and this morning they were up crawling around the attic, re-rat proofing the attic as it. We had the attic, we have California roof rats. They're a very common thing. Most homes in California, at least Southern California. Wow, I got a perfect pronunciation. Good news. Most homes have California roof rats. They climb up the stucco on the outside of your house, and they find a way to get in through the eaves or those little vents in your roof, and at night you're trying to sleep and you hear ch-ch-ch-ch. So we got rid of them, 18 years ago, something like that. And we've had, hello, Cass and Dave. How are you guys? Ron Schultz. We've had some rats get back in there every now and then. Not all that problematic. Certainly not as bad as when we bought the house. Oh no, I got the tickly nose hair. The California Roof Rats, that is a good name for a band. Hello, Paul House. Good to see you again. Had a Zoom meeting with Paul this morning about some road rally stuff. He gave some great advice. That was fun. Hello, Ray Hill. So anyway, they did that up in the attic, and now they're still working on the eaves, and I can see them carrying out their gallon jugs of cold water. And I know that any minute they're going to ring the doorbell, and I'm going to have to go answer the doorbell. So I will be jumping up and running over there because my wife is upstairs doing taxi business behind closed doors from the bedroom. So, I have been reading this book, which Darren Moss recommended, and I've spoken about it before. I'm a big fan of Seth Godin, the guy who wrote this book. I think I've read virtually every book he's ever written. This one is the most difficult to get through, but something, as I was reading it, I think yesterday morning, I can't remember exactly what I was reading, but it caused me, as I often do, to make notes on the inside of the book. And yeah, there goes a rat carrying a ladder out of the backyard. It was a really big rat. It was about 5'10". Hey, Spiritual, how are you? Mark Reel, Trev Fury. So I wrote, these are just my sketchy notes that I can barely read my own handwriting for a change. You have more control over your success than you've been led to believe. Starving artist moniker, self-image, and lowly status are false constructs and narratives. Where did this idea come from? It's easier to claim victimhood than it is to do the work and rise above it. I'm going to say that again. It's easier to claim victimhood than it is to do the work and rise above it. Why not be the person choosing rather than being the person waiting to be chosen? I think that that's a true statement for so many people in our world, that it's like, remember, oh gosh, what was the movie with Woody, the animated movie with Woody the cowboy? What was that? Hello, Dan Weber. Why can I not think of that? And the little astronaut dude. It's been like 10 years since I've seen that movie. Toy Story, thank you. So remember in Toy Story, boy, you guys are up on your hello member services. Look at that. Everybody knows the name of that movie. Great film, as were all the sequels. Remember, I think it was in the first Toy Story where the little Martian guys are in that the claw device at the bowling alley or somewhere, or the arcade, and the claw comes down, and the guys, the little stuffed aliens in there that you grab with the claw. That's right, you can spot the parents in the chat room. I think some people who weren't parents even saw Toy Story. Anyway, at one point, those little Martians are going, pick me, pick me. They're looking up at the claw going, choose me or pick me. And at that moment, sitting in the movie theater with our daughters many years ago, watching that, I thought, oh man, that's like musicians, just like begging and wanting so badly for people in the industry to pick me, pick me. Some people say the music industry is a lottery, which I personally don't really subscribe to that. So when you think about it, why not be the person choosing rather than waiting to be chosen? And that got me thinking. I did get new flowers. Hello, Heidi Owen. I just think that it's sad to have this kind of perspective in life that you are some lowly musician, some starving artist. Who the hell came up with starving artist? I'm sure it wasn't about musicians. I'm sure it goes back, maybe centuries. Who knows? Hello, Giovanni and Michael McGraw. I just think that it's a bad place to start from. And then that got me thinking about guys like Matt Hurt or Chuck Henry or Matt Vanderboe. So many of our members who have used Taxi to become successful, and thinking about all those guys. I know them all well. They're all good friends at this point, and have been for several years. And I don't think any of them ever had that kind of desperate feeling of waiting to be chosen, and they're now in position where they get to choose who they want to work with, because they're successful enough that virtually any library would want them, and they can like kind of pick and choose where they put their music and who they want to work with. So I want input from you guys. Am I crazy in thinking that it's sad that it's ingrained in the minds of musicians, and I'm sure actors as well, and maybe painters, anybody who's involved in the arts. I don't know does anybody know where the phrase starving artist came from? Yes, that's right. Good eyes, Ray Hill. I did. I opened the doors on the cab when I was rearranging the flowers. Debbie Ward, hello. Ooh, amazing book called Real Artists Don't Starve. I'm going to make a note about that. By Real Artists Don't Starve. All right, I will order that and add it to my very high stack of books that I'm trying to get through. Um, Dan Weber says, I want to work with taxi clients. I hate the cold calls to libraries. Yeah, I mean, there was a taxi brochure that we had that was around for probably 15 or 20 years. And the headline on the front of it was Taxi is the second best way to get a record deal, publishing deal, or film and TV deal. And you open up the cover and it said the best way to get that deal is to do the work yourself. Identify who the companies are or who the individuals are, learn what you can about them, stalk them, if you will, and then reach out to them and do the heavy lifting yourself and pitch them on the idea of signing your music. But I knew from being around artists for so many years of my career, the artists want to be artists. They don't want to be business people. And that's why I thought Taxi was a good idea that, yes, you can do it yourself, but most people don't want to. And they don't want to take the time away from being artistic and creative to do that business stuff. So we do a lot of it for you. Darren Moss, let me go, probably during the romantic period. Too many blame success on luck. Good luck happens to those that work hard. Absolutely. I think this is from Darren Moss. I think the choose yourself and don't wait to get chosen, and get on with things is correct. I wish I had come to that realization earlier than I did. Debbie Ward says, a starving artist is an artist who sacrifices all. I don't know. I look at the successful taxi members and I don't think they sacrificed all. Maybe that's more applicable to people who aren't in the film and TV side of things. I don't know. Spiritual says, we'll rap for food. Yeah, I'm one of those people that if I walk by quote unquote starving artist, in a subway tube or on a street corner, I always flip them a buck because I feel like, well, at least they're out there doing something to earn the money. They're not just standing there holding out their tin cup. They're actually doing something. There's a guy who plays, I believe the gentleman is Japanese, and he plays, if you take the train from Chicago in the city, out to O'Hare Airport, that when you get to the O'Hare Airport end of the train, get off the train, go through the moving sidewalk for a bit. Before you enter the airport proper, there's a gentleman that's been there for years. I'm talking like at least 10 years, and he plays violin, and he's exceedingly good at what he does. I mean, the guy's probably like concert violinist level. And there's a guy I will actually flip $5 to because at least he's out there plying his craft. Let's see. Cass looked it up. Cass says in 1851, Henri Murger, or Murger, wrote about four starving artists in Scenes de la Vie de Bohème, the basis for the opera La Bohème by Puccini and Leon Cavallo? Yeah, I took French 101 4 years in a row. You'd think I'd be able to handle that. So maybe, maybe it was Henri Murger who coined the phrase starving artist. Jesse Peck says, some buskers make big bucks. Yeah, I actually signed somebody to a production deal, a young lady who had an incredible voice, and she was an incredible artist and performer. And I would go by her every morning in the subway on my way to work in Midtown Manhattan. And finally, one day I said, I'd like to sign you to a record deal, a production deal, actually. I was still producing back then. And she looked at me and she said, lead vocal or background? And I said, no, I want to sign you to an artist deal. And we got the music attorneys, and I laid out a decent amount of cash and signed her to a deal and put together the session players and started building some tracks. I got a song called Boys in the Attic from Ellie Greenwich. Hopefully you know who Ellie Greenwich is. And It was kind of a leader of the pack kind of song, which Ellie Greenwich had written or co-wrote with somebody. Um, and I started working on material, working on an album for this young lady. And then she said, I'm going to London for Christmas to sing on the streets there because she could make $40,000. This was back in like 1983 or 84, 85, somewhere around there. And she would make $40,000 busking in the tubes in London every year around Christmas time for about a month. So yeah, they can make great money. Unfortunately for me, after I laid out all that cash and cut all those tracks, she never came back. I never heard a word from her. None of us had email yet. Cell phones didn't exist. I just never heard a word from that girl. I should have sued her for breach of contract. Anyway, tax-free income. Yeah, so right, if you're making 40 grand a year in cash, that's like making, 60, 65 grand a year in taxed income. Jenny Haley says the mariachis in Guadalajara come to your table in the plaza. Pay us or we'll play for you. That's I always pay. Anybody who comes up to play for me in a restaurant, I tip them and say, please go away. I don't want somebody in my face making music while I'm trying to eat. I'm generally trying to have a conversation with my wife or my family. Anyway, I do have the recordings, Alex Dillon. As a matter of fact, the 24-track half-inch digital master made on a Sony 24-track digital machine that was about the size of a washing machine is still sitting in my office at Taxi. Hamburger. For those of you who aren't watching the chat, it's because Martin Gravel says Inspector Clouseau and the Pink Panther learning to say hamburger. Oh, man. All right. So anyway, what do you guys think about that? Let's talk about the attitude of starving artists and what do we think people can do to get rid of the starving artist mindset. Any great ideas? Nancy says Google Alan Kendall. He's a family physician in Pasadena, wears tux and tails and performs solo pre-COVID in Monrovia on his piano that he wheels down the street by himself to play. There's a man who's dedicated. Let's see. Darren Moss wants to know, what else did I write in the Seth Godin book? Oops. There they are. I'll be right back. Boy, this is really live TV. Okay, you're coming back Thursday, I heard you
Yeah, I
say?
think they got a schedule for Thursday.
Okay.
Did anybody call you by any chance?
Nobody called me. Anybody call you, Deb? No?
Okay, I think Thursday is the day.
Okay.
Okay?
We'll be here. We're not going anywhere.
All right, very good.
Thank you, guys. And remember, Thursday is cookie day.
All right. Remember right there.
Yeah, chocolate chip with walnuts. All right, guys. Bye-bye. Thank you. Oh, man. The riggers. Yep, Thursday's the day. Rats ringing the doorbell. My wife promised them chocolate chip cookies when they come back. All right, so getting back to my question, and I will tell you if there's anything readable in the book in a minute. Vision is key. Can you see yourself in the position that you want to be in? Does it scare you, or are you ready for what will be asked of you? Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Fear. Maybe fear is at the root of it all. Fear that I won't be good enough. Fear that I'll be rejected and that will be painful. Fear that somebody else is better. Fear that I find out the truth. This is one thought that I've had for most of the years that I've owned Taxi, is that a lot of people probably don't join Taxi because they have family and friends and an internal dialogue where they talk about in their own head how great I am. My music is awesome. That song is a hit. And then they blame the industry. But the industry, they only want to crush your dreams. They don't want to help you. They should sign me, but they don't. The music industry is a lottery. What are the chances that I'll win, the golden ticket? So I think that fear is a lot of it, and it's so it gnaws at me. It literally gnaws at me sometimes that people I know who are smart and hardworking won't take the chance because they fear that they secretly fear that they won't be good enough or they're not good enough, and that's kind of sad. Let's see. Fear of success is a real thing. Um, yeah, fear is the greatest enemy. Let's see. Jenny Haley says, having decided that I had no ambition at my age to be a visible artist, there's no need for me to starve. I will be a successful songwriter instead. There you go. I think the best thing to realize is it's like a job. You're not the best at your job as soon as you start. Ooh, this is great. But you learn every day and just move on. Taking criticism and learning from it is important. See, that's a good mindset. Fear can lead to negativity, sadly. Yeah, it's easier to ruminate in the fear than it is to take the chance. Um, Peter Rahal says, nausea you? Yep, it's rat day. It's Martin Gravel says it's kind of a Zen thing. Keep up the good work and be patient. Yeah, well, that's hard for a lot of people to do. Um, excuse me. Paul says, fear knocked at the door. Faith answered, no one was there. Um, Joseph Alonso says, I sit on my songs for years due to fear. Oh, man, that's sad to hear. Be realistic, Darren says, where you're at. Learn rapidly. Ask questions from experts and books and resources like Taxi. Don't give up when you hit criticism or setbacks. Commit to getting better. See, that's the kind of mindset that I believe the successful Taxi members all share. I love it when people say to me, I relish the feedback I get from your screeners. That tells me they're going to succeed. At some point, those people are going to succeed. Joseph Alonso, you don't have to be a star. Do music and make money writing and producing for others. Positive thinking, common sense is not that common. Too many think there's being a star or nothing. There's a huge industry in between. Yep, and for my money, film and TV is where it's at. Think professionally. Follow Dean Cripain's 10 Commandments. If I could get his book out quickly. I couldn't find one of his books the other day. I know it's here, but I would read those out loud. Dave Merkel says, I was told years ago to get a real job for real income. Now I'm making some dollars doing what I enjoy, and I'm having a blast, but I feel guilty because it's so fun. What the hell? Jonathan Morse says, few of us are taught to be, whoops, hang on, I gotta scroll back up to that one. Few of us are taught to be business people at the same time. Russell Simmons showed a lot of rappers to be business people. He absolutely did. Boy, he's a great business person. Jan says, I've heard patience is a virtue. It is. It's hard to be patient. I always had this image of people when they get a forward, sitting by the phone or checking their email or their text every few minutes. Dan Weber says the marathon analogy works best for me. I believe that analogy was first voiced by a member named Chuck Schlachter, who says has always said for easily 10 years now that it's a marathon, not a sprint. But people, we live in a fast food society where we want to get instant feedback, instant gratification all the time. Let's see. Paul House says, I think Taxi gives us all the support you need to beat the fear, not just the company, but your fellow members. They all help. Absolutely. Giovanni Lanza says a person I know calls it auto sabotage. Um, yeah, self sabotage. Yep. Yeah, it's probably easier to sabotage yourself and fall into bad, unproductive habits and mindset, so that way you can continue to blame external forces for the failure. Um, Screeners make me feel it's possible. They arm me with knowledge. Had to repair my roof after the first forward. Well, I know, just the guys. Um, it's a numbers. It is a numbers game, but it's got some level of control. When people say it's a lottery, well, you really. I mean, I actually read a book on how to play the lottery better. I don't know that the book was all that good or the advice was all that fruitful because I never won a lottery. Not that I don't play the lottery very often, but I have friends that play the lottery like $20 a week. Every week of their lives, they've never won anything more than $20. But while it is a numbers game, especially in the film and TV side, especially in the instrumental side of the film and TV game, it's a numbers game in that you have to get a lot of music out there so that the Pareto principle kicks in again, where 20% of the music will generate 80% of the income. So yeah, that's a numbers game, but some people think it's a numbers game that if they just keep submitting, they will ask the question on the forum, how many submissions did you make before you got your first forward? How many forwards did you have before you got your first deal? How many deals did you have before you got your first placement? And while that might have some effect, just because of volume does increase your chances. The more you play, the more you stand a better chance of winning. You can control your odds, which you can't do in the lottery. You can control the outcome to a pretty large degree in our end of the business, by getting things right, by listening to the feedback from the screeners, by hanging out with you guys on the forum, by going to the road rally, by watching Taxi TV. All those little things add up to, so my music shouldn't have fades. It should have a stinger ending. These are some typical forms for instrumental cues versus songs. Simpler is often better. There are all these little aha moments, I guess I should say, that all add up to jacking up your odds of being successful. Let's see, scrolling back up to catch some of this stuff. Tony Salazzo says, lots of good tips. In case it hasn't been said yet, don't focus on what you don't have. Great advice. Focus on what you want and how you're going to get there. Post-it notes on the bathroom mirror. Darren Moss says, next hurdle is once you know what to do is actually doing it. Execution. That's the hard part. I have a problem with execution. I heard Derek Sivers say, if information was all we needed, we'd all have perfect abs and $1 billion. It's actually doing it. Absolutely. I just got an email from Derek a couple days ago. He's moving back to New Zealand, or he has moved there. Let's see. Some luck involved. You have to be ready for that lucky moment. Yep. Ooh. Networking and creating relationships are key to building success. Taxi TV, its guests and experts help you be better. Other musicians on here to collab with. Mark Reel says, learn to really believe that you have something to offer because only you can do it your way. Creating something is a reward in and of itself. Learning to believe that you have something to offer, that's hard. That could take years of therapy. I wish there was an easy answer. to on how to convince yourself that you're worthy or that you do have something to offer. Um, yeah, whoever comes up with a pill for that, I mean, not something that gets you stoned out, makes you believe it, but something that actually does it. Um, what's that stuff that they give to people with ADD? I can't remember the name of the drug, but yeah. Um, I took one of those pills. Actually, I took a half of one of those pills one time to try it, and it does make you feel like you can conquer the world. I don't know how people take that stuff every day. Um, there's this other super easy to digest book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, which helps us identify all the BS we tell ourselves for not publishing our work. So helpful. Yes, just so you know, or Kua, is that how you say it? Kua? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to work on that one. Many of us, myself included, have actually read that book, have read all of Stephen Pressfield's books. He was actually going to be a speaker at our convention a couple of years ago and then decided that he didn't like public speaking. But I've actually spoken to him on the phone. And his books are amazing. Um, Let's see, Darren Moss. Whoa, sorry, these things are scrolling off my thing really quickly. Darren Moss says, I'm reading 3 Robin Frederick books. I'm kicking myself I didn't get these earlier. Has already helped me fix some of the weaknesses I had in my songwriting. Yep, her books aren't the kind of book that you open up and read like a novel. All of Robin Frederick's books, starting with Shortcuts to Hit Songwriting, songwriting for film and TV, shortcuts to songwriting for film and TV. It's more like having Robin sitting next to you, just waiting for you to go, well, how do I do this? The table of contents are so incredibly well laid out for her books that I don't think there's a problem a songwriter could have that they couldn't skim, going up and down with the finger on the table of contents and not find a ready answer for. Um, Ritalin, there you go. Have fun with the challenge. Take Iraso Emil. Hello, Iraso. Says, take pride in struggling with something difficult instead of acting easy or acing easy. I'm not sure what you mean. Um, Paul House says his mom told him to do it. He can do anything I want to do. I'm writing music to see if she was right. Yeah, I think I mentioned on a show a few days ago that I take great comfort in knowing that years ago, when my now 36 and 40-year-old, give or take a half a year, their daughters were little. I think it was around 1994 when Taxi was a couple of years old, maybe 95-ish, and my daughters Rachel and Sarah came to spend a summer with us here in LA. And I remember one of the girls said to me one night, I think it was Rachel. She made me a coaster out of a tile you would put in your bathroom, and she painted on it, and she did a little Taxi logo, and she said something like, "You owning Taxi has given me a great gift." And she was a little kid. She was probably, I don't know, 10, 12 years old or something. She said, watching you succeed at this company, and we were far from successful at that point, but at least I think we were just past the point where we were starving to death. She said, you've taught me that you can do anything in life that you want to do if you want to do it badly enough and you don't give up. And man, that choked me up. That I will never forget. That was maybe one of the 5 greatest moments of my lifetime. Um, I really truly believe that you can do anything you want to do within reason. There is a caveat. Um, my now 23-year-old daughter has decided in the last 9 months that she wants to be a Formula One driver. Is it impossible? No. Uh, are all the Formula One drivers people who started driving go-karts when they were like 4 years old and worked their way up through the ranks of all the different levels and types of racing? Yeah. So to start at 23, 24 years old, um, she would need to be heavily funded, and that ain't coming from me. But she would need, to have a roof over her head, food on the table, and be able to just practice driving and have the car to drive. Starting out with a go-kart, I'm sure every day of her life for like 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, to even have a chance at catching up. But for many things in life, the timeline isn't so critical, especially what we're talking about here. Songwriting and creating instrumental cues. You can start that at any age. Starting that at 3 or 4 years old isn't necessary. Enjoy the journey. Don't stop believing. There you go, Akira. Yeah, there is self-esteem issues involved. I am not going to profess to be able to cure self-esteem issues. That takes a lot of therapy. Catching up here. Hey, give me a minute of silence. Fun fact, Ritalin was named after the chemist's wife, Rita. She must have been very chatty. She was a fast talker. uh, Joseph says there's no other outlet for songwriters like Taxi. Well, thank you. I'd like to believe that that's absolutely true. Oh man, they're just scrolling off. You guys are very active today. That's good. Um, Peter Rayhill says, Paul House said, if you're fortunate enough to have had that encouragement spoken to you, I basically got, how dare you? I dared anyway. Yeah, I've got to say, my parents weren't all that encouraging. They weren't terrible parents by any stretch, but like when they found out that I was working at Criteria Studios when I was 19 years old, it's like they were beyond angry. They thought I was working in, like some dirty warehouse with a bunch of skeezy musicians who were all shooting heroin, and my life was about going downhill. Cass says, many carpenters can't cut it as prop makers in Hollywood. Fear of being asked to build something they don't know how to. Pete Mason says, start with a BMW, work your way up to a Ferrari. There you go. I like the sound of that. Oh no. Ariana just had a little minor stroke. The email I received today regarding the ISC 2020 contest, the link doesn't work. Please check that out, Ariana. Um, yeah, my parents were discouraging about certain things in my life, and my attitude was screw you. Actually, that discouragement was the thing that spurned me on and taught me I could do anything. People always say, oh, you should write a book. You've had such an amazing life. I don't see it that way at all. I just think I'm just like a regular guy who anytime I saw something that I wanted to do, I just went and did it. And I've got to say, I haven't had a lot of failures in life. A lot of successful people attribute their success to repetitive failures. And it's true that every time you fall down, it's about getting back up, I've been very fortunate in my life that most things that I've tried have worked out well. Whoa. It's like every once in a while the chat just goes, foop. Um, oh, Ariana says, give me a smile. There you go. There's a smile for you, Ariana. Um, strike a pose. There's my deep thinking pose. Don't use those. Jenny Haley, I wrote my first song at 4 years old. Yeah, I think I wrote my first one of two that I've actually, or three that I've written in my lifetime. It was called Sally Lynn, You Win. Must have been a country song. uh, Giovanni says, I have a piece that was reviewed with good critiques, but didn't know what to do with it. Up to now, no requests seem to be right for it. That is my fault, maybe. Hey, sometimes you gotta write stuff that, just comes out of you. Not every single thing that you write has to be in response to a brief or a taxi listing. There's that Skippy thing again. All right, well, unfortunately, I'm going to miss some comments. No, we shouldn't discourage our kids. We shouldn't blow smoke either, but you should absolutely be supportive of your kids. Ariana says the ISC links do work. She just triple checked. All right. Well, thank you for checking. Here, there's my thank you for checking face. Oh, this is a great one from Ronald Schultz. I never understood the concept of you need something to fall back on. You know what? I can't tell you how many times when I started taxi, people would say to me, what are you going to do if it doesn't work out? And I said, there is no if it doesn't work out. I'm going to make this thing work. If you have a big, hairy, audacious goal and you're trying something that you fear, you got to face the fear, obviously. If you don't go to bed with bone-chilling fear, more often than not when you're going through that, because I certainly did with taxi. I was scared to death. Like, what the hell am I doing? What if I fail at this? How am I going to support my family? And the next thought that would pop into my head is, well, I love my family, therefore I can't fail. Failure was not an option. That's not just a catchphrase. That is true. Dave Merkel says, yeah, Link worked for him. Debbie Ward, well, I'm so sorry. That stuff just keeps scrolling off the page. Wow, you guys are very active today. Set an example for your kids' works too. Feel free to email them. Nancy says she got an error code 404. Well, with that typing, Nancy, of course you got an error code. Look, your typing in the chat looks like my wife sending a text. The whole staff quietly and nicely laughs at my wife behind her back because her texts are just like, looks like she wrote it with a salami and not her fingers. Peter Rahill in rare form today. Was that lady who was too talkative, was her name Rita Lynn? Probably. No, I'm not gonna. I could still remember. The only line I remember is the hook. Sally Lynn, you win. Write, submit, forget, repeat. Boy, a lot of new people chiming in today. More to gain music, like more to gain, more to gain music. Any successful project incites motivation. Oh, that's right. She might have an old link stuck in her cache from a previous email with an old link that they had. Yeah, everybody else is saying the links work there. Richard Carr says, it took my father 35 years to figure out what I'm about. Now he's gone. Mom will never figure it out. Yeah, the Seth Godin insight you had has really hit a nerve. It has. I'm going to reread the stuff that I wrote again. I actually have reread it several times since I made the note. You have more control over your success than you've been led to believe. That it's so true. If you didn't have any external input about whether, what your odds are of being successful, let's just say in this context of being a songwriter or a composer. If you never read any books, never read anything on a website, never talked to any people, if you were just like popped out of your mommy's tummy and decided you wanted to be a songwriter and then went into a bubble, think about how easy it would be to succeed because you wouldn't have fear of the unknown, you wouldn't have fear of failure, you wouldn't know the starving artist thing. You'd be like virgin territory, right? Oh yeah, I was going to read that. Maybe I need some Ritalin. uh, you've been led to believe starving artists, self-image, and you have lowly status are false constructs. Where did this come from? It's easier to claim victimhood than it is to do the work. Yeah, victimhood. So many people find comfort in that cozy little womb of victimhood. That I'm a victim, that external forces have, are working against me. I'm a victim. Screw victimhood. Victimhood doesn't work for anybody. All right, gonna scroll down. Yeah, while we're briefly on the subject, I don't want to lose this whole thing that we're talking about. But I've got to say, in the past, I have probably publicly stated, maybe on the forum or somewhere, that I was not a big believer in song contests. But I've got to say, the USA Songwriting Contest and the ISC contest, I believe both of those, we wouldn't be sending out their emails. And we don't get anything. We do not commission anybody who, signs up for their contest. But so many of their people have gone on to bigger and better things because they were part of that contest. And we now know the people at both of them, and we enjoy working with them. Debbie Ward says, you have more control over your success than you've been led to believe. Agreed. Is sadness our leading emotion? Can emotion have a wide spectrum? I'm not really sure I understand that fully. Let's talk about this. Victimhood is also associated with the self-entitlement syndrome. Ooh, that is such a good observation. Self-entitlement. I want something, therefore I deserve it. I should have it just because I want it. Yeah, I would love a Ferrari, which I actually really wouldn't, but yeah, if I were like a multi millionaire, I don't know that I would go buy a Ferrari. Not that they suck by any means, it's just not my thing. But just because I want something doesn't mean I'm entitled to it. And some people think that, okay, so I want something, I feel entitled to it, and I'm not getting it. Therefore, it's somebody else caused that to happen to me. Oh yeah, back to my notes. Darren Watts is so good. Must have had his Ritalin today. He's reminding me over and over. Let us see. Who's it for and what's it for on page 21? Well, let's go have a look at that. This is a marketing book, by the way. People don't want what you make or what you're selling or what your service is. People don't want what you make. They want what it will do for them. That is one of the great keys to marketing. Yeah, you join Taxi because of what Taxi can do for you. Brad Gray, no, you don't get a trophy for just showing up. I am not a fan of that construct at all. If you can bring somebody belonging, connection, peace of mind, status, or one of the other most desired emotions, you've done something worthwhile. The thing you sell is simply a road to achieve those emotions, and we let everyone down when we focus on tactics and not outcomes. Interesting. Who's it for and what it's for, the two questions that guide all of our decisions. True that. Uh, Oh, something that we started messing around with that I got from this, the idea I got from this book, is we're going to start putting every listing up on the forum. And truthfully, some of that is for SEO. The Google search engine tends to like our forum. So if we put every single listing as its own post up on the forum, it'll be good for SEO. But the side benefit is that it's kind of a constant reminder to, our smarter, better, more active members tend to frequent the forum. So while they might see an email while they're at work or in the middle of a TV show or whatever could distract them from acting on it. You look at your email on your phone and go, oh, yeah, there's a listing that's interesting, but you may forget about it because you get distracted. So by putting it on the forum, we know that the people who are the most active taxi members are going to have the listings right there in front of them, so maybe they will be reminded to make a submission. So there you go. The market likes a winner. That's true. You know what? The easiest way to get a production music library to sign you is by letting them know that you have been signed by other production music libraries. It automatically gives you a spot in their prefrontal cortex that says, this person's real. They're good enough that somebody else wanted them, therefore I want them too. Right? Everybody likes a winner. Why do we fear risk? What do you lose? Let's think about that. Why do you fear risk? What do you lose? Yeah. I made a submission and it didn't pan out. What do you lose? Well, you lose $5, but that's not really the point, I don't think. I don't think you lose anything. Even if you don't get a forward, you gain in that, number one, you tried. Number two, you probably improved your writing or composing skills by making that piece of music. Number three, you probably improved your engineering and production skills by engineering and producing that piece of music. And you've gained the feedback that the screener will give you, and you've gained the knowledge of what works and what doesn't work. So you shouldn't fear the risk of making a submission. That's just looking at it very, kind of, what's the word for tunnel? Seeing it through a tunnel, myopically, seeing it myopically through the music lens. Okay, back to what you guys are saying. Fear of losing is a great force. Absolutely. You have to have a trophy to play. Woo. Well, there you go. Cass is all about the golf. You have to have a trophy to play in the Masters golf tournament. There you go. And not that trophy like for showing up, like an actual trophy that you actually won something. Dan Weber says, I first got into this business for extra income, but now it's becoming a part of my waking life. I literally lose sleep if I make a mistake at this. And honestly, I've made a few. Haven't we all? You know what? Every mistake is an opportunity. The feedback is worth $5. Very few things we perceive as risk actually are a risk. We fear risk because of rejection, even though it's not rejection, it's really just feedback to learn from. Yep. John Hemingway, fear is false evidence appearing real. Yeah, and you know what? The more often you play that tape over and over, the more real it makes it. And it's so easy to fall into that trap of self-doubt, self-loathing. I remember in the years where taxi was first starting to become successful, I was constantly wondering, I think I had what they call imposter syndrome. It's like, really, is what I'm putting out there as good as I think it is? Do I deserve this success? Um, Imposter syndrome, I'm sure I could come up with a better definition of it, but basically it's when you're good at something or being successful at something, especially if it's in the public eye, that you may not actually feel worthy and feel like you're being an imposter. But the proof is in the pudding, you know? I remember thinking at the time when I was wondering, is Taxi as good as people say it is? I don't know. I've got doubt. I've got self doubt. Maybe this whole thing is just some sort of charade, even though, I mean, I knew I wasn't, proffering a charade, as it were, but you know, I was worried that it was going to be ephemeral, like here one minute, gone the next. And I finally figured out that no, it's just hard work and putting something of real quality out there. Um, I had no reason to feel like, to envelop myself in the imposter syndrome. Um, Peter Rahill, always good with the jokes. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Oh, Lord, I hope it ain't a train. Spring says, I started doing better and feeling better about my music when I began looking at all feedback curiously. That's interesting. Taking it in without defense or opinion. There's a lot to be gained. Absolutely. Man, I'm enjoying this episode. We've only got 3 minutes left to enjoy it. Where did that 1% rule? Ian Shortle says the 1% rule. If you get 1% better at something every day for a year, you'll be 365% better by the end of the year. Absolutely. Joseph Alonso, Michael, can you create a taxi trophy? We actually give one out at the Road Rally. We give out an award, the John Brahaney Songwriting Award, every year. And by the way, you know what? Very few people ever laugh at the certificates that we send out when you get a forward. And I had that idea like 20 years ago or something. And I remember some of the people on my staff were like, boss, that's a little hokey. But yet, after we started sending them out when people got forwards, people started sending us back pictures of all their certificates on the wall in their workspace or their studios. So you know what? A public acknowledgement, a personal acknowledgement goes a long way. It just, it's an attaboy. It tells people, hey, you got it right. Good for you. Feeding the negative emotional loop in the brain is a catastrophe. Yeah, I don't know anybody who doesn't fall prey to that at some point, maybe often. I do. I think all of us do. You get something negative in your head, you dwell on it. It's really hard to dig your way out of that hole. I've only been to therapy once in my life, and that was a marriage counselor with my first wife. Didn't work out. He finally told us usually people don't make it to marriage counseling until it's too late, but he was happy to take our money. So having never gone through therapy for like personal issues, I can't speak to that very well, but I have read a lot of self-help books. Not that I was going through periods where I was like dwelling on what a failure I was or I needed a lot of help, but positive reinforcement books, Tony Robbins kind of books. And there's always gems in there that can help you. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. We've got a minute left. Here, now I'm going to close out today with this quote from Nancy that she got from Michael Jordan. I've missed more than 9,000 shots, lost almost 300 games, 26 times was trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed, failed over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. Michael Jordan. Well, there you go. Darren Fletcher says it'd be cool to see the list of all the John Brahaney winners. Keith LeBrant, Oh man, I can't even think of them all. Paul Otten was one. Basically, we pick somebody who has, and it's not necessarily about somebody who's had the most deals or makes the most money. It's really about the person who has grown the most and works really hard and is getting it right, even if they're early in their arc of success. Chuck Henry, thank you. Time goes by so fast. It really does. Anyway, guys, this was a great discussion. Wow, we stayed on one topic. We didn't even stray into gophers or fishing even once today. Um, what was the heavy metal name winner? We just went to that couple's house for dinner on Sunday evening. We had a little outdoor dinner with them. And she made the comment. She said, "Thank you so much for getting all those names. They were great." She said, "I basically tucked them away." She's finishing up script number one, which is heading into its second draft. And script number two is the one with the heavy metal band. So she has saved all the names in a folder, and she will get to them when she gets to them. Anyway, thank you guys. Paul Otten, yep, mentioned him. Thanks, you guys. This was a fun one. I feel like I learned some stuff from you guys today, which is always awesome. I will see you tomorrow, which is Wednesday, and the construction workers won't be here tomorrow, so we get to have this time all to ourselves. With that, I bid you a fond farewell. The band is ready to play. See you tomorrow. Here's one more for you, Ariana. Bye, you guys. See you tomorrow for another exciting episode of Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour. Bye-bye. Woo-hoo.